What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. It's time to look at some of the most underpriced players in FPL that I think you should consider for your Game Week 1 teams. Welcome back everyone to another FPL video. I hope you're enjoying everything we've got. It's coming thick and fast while the Euros are on, but I'm fully preparing for the start of the season, looking at some of the players I want to own, drafting up my team. So another video to follow on from the one that came out on Wednesday, which was the 10 overpriced players that I think you should avoid in your Game Week 1 teams. So if you haven't seen that, once this is finished, go and check that out to make sure that none of those are in your team at the moment. So today we're going to look at 10 underpriced players, and as I said, we'll look at goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, strikers, the lot throughout. So make sure you go and check that out if you haven't watched it already, but let's dive into these. The first one, of course, has to be Rafinha. Let's get him out of the way. Potentially the most talked about underpriced player this year, as he's come in as a 6.5 midfielder for Leeds. Now, he came in at 5.5 mil last season, so he's just gone up 1 million, despite having a great season, being so creative. Even if the FPL points weren't always there, he's always returned. Sort of visually, the eye test, he's always passed it, being so creative, such a joy to watch. So he got 4.85 points per start last season. There was a bit of a slower patch in the middle, but the start of the season and particularly at the end, he played so well. He's on set pieces for Leeds, corners, free kicks. He could have had plenty more assists if some of the centre-backs knew how to put the ball in the back of the net. But as time goes on, staying at Leeds, he's going to become better, more adapted to the league, more in line with the way Leeds want to play. He started the season a bit slowly, so it's only going to hit the ground running. And they have a nice enough set of fixtures. Man U, Everton, Burnley, Liverpool, Newcastle, West Ham, as you can see there in the first 6. A good enough run of fixtures, but we know Leeds can score against anyone. So Rafinha at 6.5, I think is an absolute bargain. If you're looking for a cheap price mid, yes, their fixtures maybe are not quite as good as you want, but I think he's a great option to go with. Next up, we have Brentford forward Ivan Toney, again 6.5 million, but as a forward. So a newly promoted striker. I can see why they've put him at 6.5 million, but I think he could be a great enabler in our teams to allow us to have some of the other premiums like Salah, Bruno Fernandes, Harry Kane, De Bruyne, Trent, Robertson. I think at 6.5, Toney could be a really nice option. So he's a championship top goal scorer with about 30 goals last season, an absolutely incredible return. He's the focal point of the Brentford attack, who were also the top scoring team in the championship. So he plays for a team that love to score goals. They love to score goals by getting Toney to score goals, and he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. They keep producing great strikers. They had Ollie Watkins before, and now Toney has gone and done it again. I think at 6.5, I can see why he's that price, but I think he'll outperform it this season. Arsenal at home, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Brighton, Wolves, Liverpool is an okay start to the season. The first two particularly, I think there's a chance for Toney to really hit the ground running. After that, it gets a bit more difficult. Aston Villa, Brighton, Wolves, Liverpool, potentially a bit more difficult from an attacking point of view for Toney, but I still think at that price, there isn't any other forward at 6.5 or below that I'd rather have. Up at 7.5, there are some other nice forwards, but 6.5 is a really nice price for Toney. Just before we jump into the next part of the video, make sure to join the league code that is down there. There will be prizes between now and the end of the season every month for you to win, so make sure you're in that league. Next up, we have our goalkeeper on the list, which is Sanchez of Brighton, who has come in quite surprisingly at 4.5 million. Although it was surprising when he was announced, but looking at a lot of the other goalkeeper prices, I think it's quite fair now. He got 3.67 points per start. He was part of on the expected numbers for expected goals conceded, expected clean sheets. Brighton ranked about 3rd for the best expected defence behind Chelsea and Manchester City. So we've spoken about before in my top tips video that having goalkeepers that make saves is really important, and you don't just need clean sheets, and he does make a good amount of saves whilst also having really good clean sheet potential. At 4.5 million, I think he's the best goalkeeper to own for Game Week 1. Burnley, Watford, Everton, Brentford and Crystal Palace all in the first 6 means he's probably the best 4.5 goalkeeper, and he has the best opening run of fixtures out of all of the 4.5 goalkeepers. So For me, there's no real reason for you to go for anyone else unless you go for a 5 million or 5.5 if that's the way you want to play. But if you're going for a 4.5 goalkeeper option, there's no one else really to go for. Brighton were really good defensively. They play that sort of 3/5 at the back, which means they can be great defensively. They don't score a lot of goals, which means they have to be good defensively. So Sanchez at 4.5 million, I think, is an absolute bargain. Next up is a 4.5 defender that comes in by Fofana. Again, surprised to see him come in at 4.5. Leicester as a team generally feel quite underpriced. He only got 2.63 points per start, which may be why he is only priced at 4.5 million. But along those same lines as Brighton, Leicester were ranked as the 5th best expected defence in the league last season. And Fofana is now getting more up to speed with the league, having it been his first season. Last season, he's now fully embedded in that Leicester team, in that Leicester defence. They did fade off slightly towards the end of last season when Fofana was really in that team. So hence why his points weren't that high. But we know what Leicester can be like defensively. When everyone's back fit, when they've got Ndidi and Tielemans in the middle, when they've got, Soyuncu with Fofana, or they're playing Evans, or even if they're playing a 5 at the back, we know they can be good defensively. And their start of the season is really great to go with it. So Wolves, Norwich, Brighton, Burnley in their first 6, along with West Ham and Manchester City. You wouldn't be surprised if Leicester kept at least 2, if not 3 clean sheets in the first sort of 6 game weeks, which makes Fofana a great sort of 4th or 5th defender option. His attacking threat isn't that high, but if you can rotate him with the likes of Luke Ayling at Leeds, a 4.5, or a Charlie Taylor at Burnley, another 4.5, then great, because there are some really nice opening fixtures. Fofana is definitely going to be part of that first choice Leicester team, and to see him priced at just 4.5 million, it was a shock, I have to say. So yeah, a really nice option there. Next up, we have another defender that has come in Luke Shaw. Now, slightly more expensive at 5.5 million, but I still think it's worth paying. So he got 4.707 points per start last season and plays for the 6th best expected defence. So there is really good clean sheet potential there, but he's also combines that with the attacking threat that he has. So he gets up that left side, has goal potential and plenty of assist potential, as we saw last season, getting those attacking returns, and really good for bonus points as well because of it. So even if he doesn't score and get an assist, he's creating chances and getting in good positions, which means if Man U win 1-0, 2-0 for example, Luke Shaw is often not just getting the 6 points for the clean sheet, he's getting the 7, 8, 9 points with the bonus points that really make the difference throughout the season. They also have a nice start to the season. Leeds at home on the opening day will probably be tricky, but Southampton away, Wolves away, Newcastle, West Ham, Aston Villa, there's a lot of potential for Shaw to get attacking returns and for clean sheet potential in there. The issue with Shaw throughout parts of last season was the rotation with the Champions League, with the Europa League and things like that. But given that there's unlikely to be much fixture congestion at the start of the season and Man U will want to get off on the right foot, I can see Shaw starting the season and playing all 6 of these games. He's also played really well in the Euros. He hasn't played all the games, so hopefully he'll be back ready for game week 1. I don't see why he won't be. So Shaw at 5.5 million is a really nice defender. Just one final reminder before we get into the second half of this. Fantasy Football Hub have their biggest discount of the season at 30% off, which ends tomorrow. If you like the stats that are coming from this, like the expected numbers, everything like that, points per start, there is a link in the description which will give you 30% off, but it does end Saturday evening if you haven't checked that out already. So go and have a look if you're interested in that. But let's get back to the next underpriced players. So another Leeds player to add on to Rafinha is Jack Harrison, who is a 6 million midfielder, so actually cheaper than Rafinha. So at time of recording, he is not a Leeds player and he is a Manchester City player, but we have had all but exact confirmation that he'll be back at Leeds. It seems almost a certainty. He was great for them last season. There's no real reason that Leeds wouldn't want to sell him. City don't really need to keep him, so I expect him to be a Leeds player by the time of recording, if not pretty soon after. It seems to be almost going through. So 4.65 points per start. He was the 6th highest scoring midfielder last season, yet is only 6.0 million, and he only got increased in price by 0.5, which seems a massive mistake. I don't know why it wasn't increased by more, if I'm honest. As we said, Leeds' opening fixtures are okay. Some nice ones in there. Everton, potentially. Burnley, Newcastle, West Ham. Some tricky ones, but Leeds can score against anyone, and Harrison is often involved in that. So similar to what we said with Rafinha, between the two of them, I think given the set pieces on Rafinha, it's fair that he's 6.5 and Rafinha is 6, but they should have been 7 and 7.5 million, especially given the price of the likes of Bamford in that team as well. So both of them are great assets. If you need the 0.5 to spare, Harrison is your man, and he's the one that's in my team at the moment because I'm a bit money tight, but I also really like Rafinha. Both of them are great assets and definitely underpriced. Next up, another Leicester player. So I mentioned that they are pretty underpriced this season. There are a lot of bargains, and it goes for Iheanacho. So they have just signed a new striker who's also come in at 7.5 million, so that is worth bearing in mind. However, I still think Iheanacho will be the first choice in there alongside Jamie Vardy. He'll be starting every game, and I don't see that changing for the first start of the season at least, if not throughout the course of it as well. He got 6 points per start, 5th best expected attack in the league. So Leicester like to score a lot of goals. They were a bit slower at times during last season, but Iheanacho, when he came into that starting team, really gave them a rocket to end the season really strongly. Although they didn't get the Champions League qualification, they did win the FA Cup, and they finished the season, Iheanacho specifically, really well, getting a lot of goals. And it's not just that one goal or an assist, he's really explosive as well. He has the potential to get 2 goals and an assist every single game, so he's really involved. I like their fixtures a lot. Wolves, West Ham, Norwich, Brighton, Burnley, maybe slightly better from a defensive point of view, but their first 3 are definitely opportunities for Iheanacho to get some returns in the start of the season. 7.5 million. He's definitely one of the best options, competing with a lot of players at that price, the likes of Calvert-Lewin, the likes of Watkins, but I feel that Iheanacho is the most explosive out of them, and given that sort of Norwich fixture, Wolves as well, given the way they finished the season, I think there's a really good chance that Iheanacho starts the season really well. So Iheanacho 7.5 feels like a bargain. Next up, we have Saka, one of the players that has shone for England so far in the Euros. Let's hope that he continues it on, and the rest of the team do as well. Saka in as a 6.5 million mid. Now, it goes along with Smith Rowe at Arsenal, is also priced at 5.5 million and a real bargain. Now, it's worth for Smith Rowe looking at who they sign. Saka is much more likely to be nailed on than Smith Rowe is, but if there aren't signings for them over the summer, then Smith Rowe at 5.5 is definitely also one to consider. So Saka did only get 3.73 points per start. It's not as much as he has done. He was getting a few early subs and things like that, but at the second half of the season he did look really good, and he should be a nailed on starter now. Willian doesn't look at it. Aubameyang, Saka is coming through. He had a really good Euro so far, so I expect him to be either on the left or on the right, but being played every single week, especially when there's no European commitment for Arsenal this season. There's no reason why Saka can't be playing almost every game this season, and a good enough start to the season. Brentford on the opening day is great. It's then a bit more difficult with Chelsea and Man City, but then Norwich and Burnley and Spurs to come after that is a good enough run if you look at it over the first 6. So if you potentially have a 4.5 defender like Fofana on your bench who you could play in game weeks 2 and game weeks 3, then Saka is definitely a good addition in your team. Brentford and Norwich either side of that in the first few weeks is definitely potential returns from Saka there. So let's hope that he continues his vein in the Euros, but I expect to see another good season from him. He showed a lot of potential last season with sort of flits and flourishes whilst Arsenal weren't performing well, and when they did perform well, Saka was always involved. So I really like his price at 6.5 and worth considering Smith Rowe as well. Next up, a new signing, also promoted. So Buendia got promoted with Norwich, but is now moved to Aston Villa. Now, there is some talk whether this means that Jack Grealish will leave, for example, but he hasn't done yet. But even with that, 6.5 million for Buendia is a great asset. He got Norwich's player of the season last year and has now signed for Aston Villa. And I expect him to be given sort of license to attack, roam forward, create chances with the likes of Grealish for Ollie Watkins, and even getting a chance to scoring himself. He plays for an attack that was great last season, particularly in the first half, and they have a really nice opening 3 run of fixtures. So Watford, Newcastle, Brentford in the first 3. If you can't afford the likes of Grealish, or if he does, even if he does go, I think it makes Buendia an even nicer option because he'll be the main creative force in that team. And if you can't get Ollie Watkins up front, or you can't go, I don't know, elsewhere in the midfield, I think Buendia is one of the best assets to own from Aston Villa. And I think because he's a new signing, they've priced him slightly lower than the others, but I think 6.5, he'll provide great value this season alongside the rest of the Aston Villa players. Next up, we have a West Ham defender. So although we spoke about Cresswell in the previous video maybe being slightly overpriced, I think Soufal at 5.0 million has great potential this season. So 3.76 points per start, 9 assists last season, particularly finished the season very well. So it's always good if they have a lot of their attacking returns and their points in the second half. You hope they can carry it into the new season. He also has played well with the Euros, which is great to see he's carrying that form on, and a nice opening start to the season. So Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Southampton, all in the first 4 fixtures means that Soufal could be a nice way to start it, especially if you're then having players on your bench like Fofana, for example, that you could play in those more difficult fixtures, or if you're playing an early wildcard as well. We do know that West Ham are a great defence to have. They kept a lot of clean sheets, and we owned the likes of Cresswell, the likes of Fabianski, Soufal, Masuaku last season, and they got us a lot of points. So there's definitely potential for them to do it again. My only concern is what happens with the Europa League, whether there's slightly more rotation, but Soufal seems to be able to run on and on all game, make tackles, put crosses into the box, get up and down. So I think at 5.0, especially if they play 5 at the back and he's up on that wing back position. But that is all we've got time for. Those are my top 10 underpriced players for this FPL season. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know if there's anyone you would include that isn't in this list already, or anyone in this team that is already in your starting FPL team for game week 1. I hope it's useful. As I said, there's going to be 3 videos every single week between now and the start of the season. If you do enjoy what you're seeing, then please smash that like button. It really does support. We are almost at 5k subscribers, and hopefully we are by the time this video goes live. So thank you if we are. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications as well, because there's going to be plenty of live streams as well where you can come and get your specific questions answered ahead of the FPL season and all throughout it. So if you have enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I will see you all very soon.